Okay. A rubber dinghy. It's deflated, broken. Oh. That's him right there. And he's got the rifle with him. The fireman. An old man wearing tracksuit trousers leans on the frame stock of his rifle, gathers a big ball of spit in his mouth, then spits it out on the extinguished fire before him, raises his black eyes, hooded by his creased eyelids, to meet yours. Unclouded by cataracts, his eyesight is sharp. Are you the fire guy?
Watch now.
He cups you. Did you recently tell 2 kids to put out their fire? 2
I
twins.
may have. All sorts of little rats have come sniffing around trying to give up the position.
The position? Sounds like a hiding place.
Fire guy, regressive bourgeoisie henchman, can't even talk like a grown-up.
You've retained your eyesight.
My eyesight, yes, helps me see all this shit.
Did you close the blast door?
I did. And you opened it. How?
I fueled the generator, then used the console.
I should have burned that console down.
He shakes his head. How did you know I was coming?
Reactionary rock and roll music playing on the water.
Told you we shouldn't play sad FM.
It was not rock and roll, it was sad FM.
Sad FM, huh? I always hated that station. Phlegmatic, counter-revolutionary dirges. Sadness is a mental illness, a weapon of the bourgeoisie. The fascists were right about rock and roll. It is degenerate, hip, gyrating mental illness music.
Nice gun you got there.
It's not nice, it's a piece of shit. Gets the job done.
Is that a Belmar grave?
It's a Dragon 446.
Southeast Samaran made, exotic, must be defunct too. No modern rifle manufacturer of that name springs to mind.
Samaran rifle? How did you get hold of one?
It was sent to us by our brothers in the Xinyao commune. Military aid.
He pats his rifle. It has stayed true to him. He can still make it sing. The Xinyao commune.
You heard me. It's good now. Like chalk wiped from a board.
His gaze turns inward. Your weapon stayed true to you. Mine stayed true to me too.
Yes, I bet you killed a lot of people with it, you fascist fuck. Have you come to make me one of them?
His grip on the rifle tightens. His left eye twitches with what? Fear?
We
Rage?
have come to ask you questions, nothing more.
The lieutenant puts his hand on his
If you do
holster.
not comply, we will take you in. Do you understand?
Another spitball lands on the ashes. That's all the answer he gives. I'm with the police. You can keep the gun, but keep it down. Not one move.
No.
Lieutenant aims his pistol square at the man's head
Put
and
it
says,
down now, sir.
Or you're going to blow my brains out before you question me. To hell with it. It's a walking stick anyway. It's out of bullets.
The old man lays the rifle down carelessly, and looks at it lying there, like an amputated limb on the sand. He stares on, his wrinkled mouth moving without a sound, a strange sadness like a song. What'd you say?
The future teaches you to be alone.
The present.
The present to be afraid and cold.
The old man pulls back the hood of his plastic cape and looks out into the sky, up into the sky. It's blue-gray, the same color as the sea. Those words the future teaches you. Real music, real prolet cult. He nods. That's la revicholerie, not your rock and roll misanthropy. Chanson des soldats, of the black and whites. You need to address that remark. I'm not a misanthrope. I'm a half-dead police officer who's just doing his job. Job of a shitlicker. Fine. You don't understand anything, the old man squints at you. You see 2 black beads gleaming. Pick up the gun lying in the sand. His gaze follows your motions. The rifle feels surprisingly light in your hand. Frame stocked and patched, in places with tape and wire. Inspect it closer. Rifle's in a shabby state. Like a crutch that's seen too much travel. Hieroglyphs are embossed into the forearm, made of walnut. On the butt you see the Vespertine writing, burnt into the wood. Trigong 446mm, made in Xinjiao. Xinjiao? Xinjiao? As he said, it's Trigong, made in Xinjiao. No one said it had to be a Belmar grave. The lieutenant does not take his eyes off the old man. We were just guessing. From ballistics, it could have easily been a Trigong too. It doesn't matter if it was made in Shanti. All it has to do is use jacketed ammunition, and it does. And it does. The right type and the right caliber. The lieutenant nods, glancing at the gun. Stow the gun. Old man keeps following your motions with his gaze. His left arm twitches suddenly. Some kind of involuntary response. Something is slightly off with his motorics. This looked very much like the murder weapon. It can be used against him to get a confession in time. Who are you? My name, he looks across the water and then back at you, is Iosif Lilianovich, Dros, political commissar of the 114th Anti-Aircraft Division in the 4th Army of the Commune of Revachol. I'm a deserter, a partisan, and a prisoner of war. This is my termless surrender. His eyes turn to the reeds again, dead and dull. Commune of Revachol. The lieutenant forgets to close his mouth. Do you mean the ICM? You're a holdover from the Insulidian Citizens Militia, the Army of the Revolution. I was recruited in Shamrock in 07, trained in the École de Contrôle Ariane, and consigned to emergency defense duties in 08. I left my unit on the eve of the landing. When I returned here on May 14th, the commune had fallen. Still armed and ideologically trained, I wrote a criticism of myself and resumed partisan duties. You've been on this island for 43 years. No, he looks into the fire. A wisp of smoke rises from somewhere between the charred logs. I've been on other islands, too. I was on Resurrection until they turned it into a spa in 18. Then I was on E48, a nameless sound, until the sea washed over it. Then I came back here. That was, he thinks, 22 years ago. You've been hiding here for 43 years? 43 and 10 months. That's steadfast. It's just how a human being should live. Oh, it's not how a human being should live. But I had to, he grimaces, clearly in pain. I couldn't just forget what I saw. What have you been doing all this time? Hiding, fishing, waiting. He looks across the water. Where the afternoon grows late, on Rue de Saint-Ghislain, people walk home. Streetlights will be lit. Further inland, the streets are alive with workers. Men, women, children. Street hawks and migrant workers. The temperature is ready. Alto cumulus clouds form above Precinct 41. 2 police officers step out of the Whirling in Rags cafeteria. Satellite officer Jean Vicmar inspects giant letters across the plaza mosaic in dark red government-marked heavy fuel oil. Patrol officer Judith Mignot points west, the fishing village. She glances at her watch. We meet in 15 minutes. It's a 10-minute walk. The officers go, leaving behind the writing, still smelling of petroleum. One day, it says, I will return to your side. Always waiting. The old man turns his eyes from the shore and back to you. For what? For her to return. For who? Girl, child, revolution. I come from there. I can assure you, that's not what the people are planning. I'm not a fool, he blinks his black eyes. I know, the material base for an uprising is eroded. The working class has betrayed mankind. The historic opportunity for a revolution is past. It will not come back anymore. However hard I try, whatever I do. You said you deserted your unit. I was just 16 years old, 15 when I volunteered. I had a lapse of faith. He clears his throat, and courage too. Lapse of faith? You could say I misunderstood the historic role of the proletariat, and thought Mazovian socioeconomics were fallible. For a second I doubted the irreducible laws of historic materialism. A second is all it took. For what? For reaction to take hold. What's reaction? Petty bourgeoisie terror? It's in all men. It wasn't a reaction. You were just afraid. It's the same thing. You haven't seen it. Not really, not naked. It's impossible not to be afraid. It remains unclear what it is. He makes leaps he doesn't expect you to follow. And this is when the lieutenant instinctively looks to his notebook, but does not take it out. May the 13th, 08, 44 years ago, he looks north. The horizon was black with coalition airships. Their petroleum rose to the sky, and it looked like you have formed the clouds, storm clouds. When they started shelling, it was dark magic. Dark magic? The combined might of the international capital. All at once, all the greed and terror in the world tore into Revachol. It lifted streets from the ground and turned houses into ghosts. We were in the flak tower. He gestures towards it. Huddled on the floor. The artillery was 80 kilometers away in ozone, but I knew the commune would fall. We would all be turned to ash. So I said I was going to the map room. He looks east. Terrible shame. Still within him. The lobes of his ears are red with it. A shame and a smallness of what he became. You didn't go to the map room. No, I climbed the chain link across the water and hid in land. The bunkers there, like the weakest of the weak. A mouse, frightened of the ordnance all night, and the sound of rotors in the morning, whirring. He looks at the sky. What was that? Airships. I climbed out. He closed his eyes. Into hell. The landing was complete. The chain was submerged. I had to swim back. The fortress was half submerged too, shattered. It all drowned in the lower levels, or got torn to shreds above. The anti-aircraft gun had malfunctioned. So had I. I left them without ideological direction. He opens his eyes and stares right through you. It was real. I'd seen it. I'd seen it in reality. Seen what? The mask of humanity fall from capital. It has to take it off to kill everyone. Everything you love. All the hope and tenderness in the world. It has to take it off, just for 1 second, to do the deed. And then you see it, as it strangles and beats your friends to death, the sweetest, most courageous people in the world. He's silent for a second. You see the fear and power in its eyes. Then you know. What? That the bourgeoisie are not human. Say nothing, let him finish. I had to fight it. I had to never stop. The old man falls silent. His black eyes keep piercing your skin as he looks to some great distance behind you, shaking his head slowly, retreating from it. What is this place, this island? Not an island, Driot. He looks around. It's the defensive fortification of the commune of Revachol. I'm its last surviving defender. What was it used for? The congenitally deformed King Felipe II built it to restrict access to the Bay of Revachol. We captured in '02, retrofitted the fort with an AA gun to defend against an airborne landing, against the whole world. You mean the landing? The retaking of Revachol? Coalition military called it Operation Deathblow. He winces. I later found out on the radio. They called it Deathblow. You're one of them, tell me. Who speaks like that? We had 50 million people on Caillou alone. Murderers. I know what you mean. You don't know. You haven't seen it. He shakes his head slowly. Iblis. Iblis? The black-eyed angel. He nods. Shaitan. Ahura, the darkened one. How have you survived all this time? How does anyone survive? He looks at his worn running shoes. I steal. What do you steal? Supplies, vegetables? He winces. I collect rainwater. It's the life of a dog, not a human being. Coughs once more, then puts his hand on his belly. How's your health, Mr. Dross? I've been throwing up blood since winter. Red. Like beetroot. Been passing it in stool, too. He does seem frail, gaunt for his age. More like 75 than 65. Trouble putting on weight could mean cancer. The RCM can provide medical services. You need to be looked over. I need to die. A droll smile stretches across his mouth. You don't have any medical facilities. You have guns. That's all they give you. Toy guns. This is a serious situation. You need to be looked over, and we can do it. There's nothing to look over. The triage is in, and it's black. Administer morphine. Moribund. How have you coped mentally? I haven't. I have holes in my brain. Years missing. Others filled with pain only. A decade of... His eyes roll in his skull and back. I don't even know what. Inferno? You notice the lieutenant's about to say something. I would imagine it gets tremendously difficult mentally to live in isolation. Traitors, it's better alone. Nods towards Martinez. I watch the people of this city turn the lights back on. More and more each year, runes glimmering in the dark, like a effing merry-go-round. It's disgusting. He looks down at his shoes, his face parched from the sun and the wind. There's a wince of pain in there somewhere. How have you concealed yourself all these years? It was hard in the tens. He shakes his head. I didn't have partisan training. They were searching for stragglers. Those bloodhounds. Closes his eyes. Floodlights on the water at night. There were posters, campaigns. We communards still hoped. And they needed to snuff that hope out. The East capitulated. Martinez and Coal City were turned to dust. He looks south. But Jamrock, Faubourg, even Karan, and Boogie Street, of course. Those effing kips had Mazov coursing through their veins. And others, too. Some cordons of Revachol were still fighting. There were cells. I tried to contact them. He shakes his head. Soon they all went silent. The frequency's dead. How'd you get here between here and the mainland? At night, I used a dinghy. He nods towards the deflated tire in the reeds. I only went after dark then. When I got to the city, I stayed underground. Patrols, you lot, the commons too. They'd start snitching. In the city, you move underground? From bunker to bunker, he nods. Not anymore. No one cares now. I don't even have to hide. They think I'm another antisocial vagrant. I would walk straight into town if I wanted. I could just walk into town if I wanted. He falls silent, his gaze fixed on the shacks huddled across the water. Why didn't you walk there? Why don't you walk there? I don't want to. They're all traitors, pigs, rabbits, and dogs, men without ideals, and are only animals. The weapons cache under St. Ghislaine 22B, in the basement. Have you been there? Looks at you, then pulls the raincoat tighter around his neck. So you finally found it. Must have been a small squadron's worth of arms in there. Belmar Graves, right? They were damaged beyond use. I know. So you've been there. Sleeping. He coughs. Some nights, ammo scrounging on others. Those Margraves were shit even before they corroded. Some had bullets in the chamber, though. You feel the dots connecting. Little dots on the map he's walked across. There's a small bunker under the Feld building. Have you stayed there? Propaganda bunker? He coughs. He used to, but not anymore. Propaganda bunker? They stored leaflets there. Broadcasting equipment, too. Made broadcasts, I think. Propaganda officers. I buried them with their leaflets. They killed themselves. 2 young boys. Killed themselves? A lot of our boys did. I spent some winters there. Never liked it. Kept thinking of them. Stares into the ruins of the Feld building. No need to go underground anymore. It's better in the ruins on the ground. One more question. Do you smoke 2 Materi cigarettes? I do, he coughs. Ever smoke them on the mainland? They're good, he nods. Plenty of tar. I like that boy on the back, too. Reminds me of the last century. Another thing. You said this is your termless surrender. We're at the RCM, he waves in your general direction. The coalition-approved mob that enforces bourgeois morals on Revachol. We're not coalition-appointed. We just try to help people. He stares at you coldly. You're the RCM. You represent the Moralist International. The enemies of humanity who took this city. I represent their adversary, Le Parti Communiste d'Insolide. Take me to them as a prisoner of war. I have relinquished my weapon. I can no longer serve. No superiors can relieve me of my duty. You bulldoze them all to a mass grave for trying to free humanity. His hand shakes as he breaks into a coughing fit. A spray of blood from his mouth on the black charcoal of the fire pit. Rene, the royalist on the coast, said, the communards signed the Revacholian instrument of surrender. Liberal reactionaries signed that instrument. Traitors. Who should have been burned alive. He draws his breath. I answer to the Communist Party. Is that part of why you've been here all this time? Because the party didn't surrender? He just wipes the blood from his chin. That's insane. You're insane. He stares at the fire pit. Radio shows, speed racing, sporting goods, none of it is real. So you're a communist soldier from the Communist Army. No, I'm not a soldier. I'm an ideological officer. I belong to the party, not the army. Said you were trained and assigned to the Defense Corps. Trained, he nods, in historical materialism. Then assigned as a political commissar by the party. These things used to mean something. That means you're a trained communist, right? He nods slowly, then another tremor. Say nothing. Looks away to the sea and then lets out a cough. Another serious question for you. What have you been using the gun for? Used it for killing people. Killing people? It's a gun, that's what they're for. You want a moralist euphemism, defending your family and your property? I haven't done that. I've used it to kill people. Interesting, the lieutenant nods. During or after the war? There's no after the war. He shakes his head and smiles. His teeth rotten black. Class war is never over. So he's continued killing after hostilities ended. Okay. This is it. You can feel it, like battery acid on the tip of your tongue. Something you haven't felt in a while. But what? This is what you live for. This is the shit. The great serotonin jackpot. The solution. Go in straight. No more euphemisms. He doesn't like those. No. Be careful now. Slow and steady does it. Make him repeat it first. Don't mess this up. Remember, he wants to tell you. Get personal. Wait, so which do I say then? Nothing comes to you. Silence. His black eyes look at you. Then a chill, like electricity running up your spine, crawling into your skull. What? All is not as it seems. Detective? The lieutenant turns to you, with well-disguised impatience. So you're saying you killed people after the fighting stopped? What did I just say? He keeps shaking his head erratically suddenly. He brushes something out of his eye. What did I just tell you? Don't drop the ball now. I know you want to tell me. Have you killed anyone with that gun in the last week or two? I don't want to tell you anything, you grotesque murderer. And why did you think that was a good idea? Don't listen to me, I'm wrong all the time. Did you use that gun to shoot and kill a colonel of the security contractor Cornell? The who now? He leans in and cups his ear. He heard you. He just wants to hear you say it again. This is a dramatic flair on his part. Right choice, we're in. Do it, sire. His name was Ellis Courtnair. He was part of a security detail here in Martinez. Oh yeah, that one. He looks up at this guy and clacks his tongue. Ugly piece of work, that boy. Did you kill him? The lieutenant takes a sudden step towards him. I'm a son of a welder, and an officer of the commune of Revachol. He spits a big one at the lieutenant's feet. I do not collaborate with murderers and pederasts of the liberal regime. Exhaust him with proof. Pile it all on him. Get it a confession. The gun, the murder weapon, is a perfect opener. Something about tracks. Suddenly all those tracks are so confusing. Go with something else. Oh, the boot prints were new. Something's wrong here. I don't need your cooperation. I've got this. Show him the Triangong 446. Not a lot of guns around here use military-grade ammunition, are there? It's a real gun. He points to your sidearm. Not like your little musketeer pistol. I've seen you prance around with that. Jumping hoops for the liberals. You look like imbeciles. Why don't you ask them to give you real weapons, he chortles. Going against automatic rifles with these toy guns. Of course you got those boys killed. Damn, he saw you. He's watched it happen. He would have a good view of the tribunal from here. It's not just empty boasting. So he saw you, okay. So what? Don't let it divert you. We saved a lot of them. Their leader Titus. We handled that situation. You didn't handle anything. I watched it happen. You let those murderers rip right into them. Got most of them killed. Even the fat one. None of those people need anything to you. The vultures feed on the city and prepare the meal for them. You're getting diverted. Push the gun. Only the gun matters. So you watched the fight. The lieutenant points inland. Did you like what you saw, the mayhem? It was all your doing, your plan. You got them killed. I don't know anything. Twitch runs across the left side of his face as he stares Lieutenant down. Stop changing the subject. We have the murder weapon. You know what? The lieutenant looks at the weapon demonstratively. You're right. I'm convinced this made the shot. Should we call it in? What do you think we have the murder weapon? 446 jacketed ammunition. Modified range, he lists. We have it. This is it. I'm calling it. We have the murder weapon. Good. Lieutenant takes out his notebook and draws a single line. This feels good, doesn't it? Tying things up like this. When you have the murder weapon, you have the killer. Murder. The old man does not say any more. Glances into the reeds and twitches once more. Oh, we've done the ballistics. Point to the tower. Shot came from this island. I saw you poking around there, looking for evidence. You're damn diligent when it comes to dead faces. Jitter passes him. Did you like the view? You had direct visibility. There are embrasures in the concrete specifically meant for a top faller to use. And you had a long-range rifle in your position. Lieutenant softens his voice. You've been here a long time, Mr. Drost. Too long. You clearly need medical aid. I'm ready to die, the man interrupts him, then coughs. I've done my part. He's practically admitting to it. Dead faces for fascists. Done his part. You said faces. You're admitting you killed him. You're sad for your Fasca brother, aren't you? One twig got broken. Now the other are sad. Probably others. He waves his hand. There's a twitch. One more in his right eye. You're a communist. I talked to the dead man. He told me communism killed him. Stupid droid. Scoffs. Lieutenant looks at you with worry in his eyes. Not this, he seems to say. Anything but this. It's intuition. Had he spoken, he would have said communism killed him. Intuition is an aberrant psychologism, he chortles. It reeks of crypto-fascism. The parasite class use intuition to justify their rank in life. It's all just palmistry and magic Earl creatures. Your brain is rotting from the radio waves. He looks at the air, then to Kim. Lieutenant does not answer the provocation. Does not look like he thinks this approach worked. But still, somehow, you knew he was a communist. How? Perhaps you suspected it before you took the case. The vision was you remembering that. But this did nothing. Was it supposed to? I'll look deeper then. The inland sea is dark, vast, and on the surface meaningless. Is this the miracle? No, the miracle is still waiting. This is the darkness. But aren't I way out in the west? You are. Soon it'll happen. Turn back to him. Come on, what am I forgetting? Hit yourself in the back of the head. Wait, don't forget the footprints, the diagonal prints in the dust. And the secret space behind Clausia's bedroom. Now they're gonna come up. Of course, thank you, Head. Thank you. You got it. Remember the boot prints that were like no modern soul. I wonder what brand of boots you're wearing. Everything is brands with you, individualist. Who cares what brand my shoes are, Sansa? He looks at the running shoes covered in mud. Some shit. Show me the soles, please, Mr. Dross. Effin' imbecile. The old man stretches out his leg. A black and white spiral pattern covers the sole of worn-out old running shoes on his feet. Maker is called Sans Surik, and the size is 42-44. These are not unusual horizontal patterned soles you saw in the dust on the floor in the hidden room. They do, however, seem to be about the same size. The size fits, but not the sole. The lieutenant comes to the same conclusion. I got skill points. Where's drama? I've never put a point in drama. What the hell? No, there's another loose thread you'll never connect. Goddamn footprints everywhere. I hate them. What are you doing? He's thinking. We got him here. What do we do now? We're not getting these prints to match. People change shoes, detective. He looks at the old man. It was you. You were there, weren't you? Crawling in the whirling in rags. Leans closer. What were you doing? Some kind of reconnaissance? Preparing the scene? Listening in on her? Trying to rack your brains. He squints at him, eyes gleaming with hatred. You're desperate to report something back to your masters. Must have really loved that dead Man. The old man stares at his own prints in the ash around the fire. Silent suddenly, some strange process within him. A gush of wind, seagulls in the distance. He suddenly jerks to life. You know who he was, a coalition-trained murderer, armored and armed. He wasn't human. The blood end of a hammer, dripping with blood. He was a soldier, too. He was a man. Beating us to the ground, moaning with joy. Breathes with strange animation. You hounds get so thorough when a company-trained killer dies. I haven't seen you on this coast for 40 years. You know, maybe I should have killed one sooner. Got your attention, he looks at you dead in the eye, pupils shaking. Now you stop beating the druggies and prostitutes in your basement. Now you come to investigate. Not when they died by hundreds. He breathes through flared nostrils. This is it. Shot him. Shot him. Say shot him, not killed him. So you shot him. Oh, the humanity. He closes his black eyes. One paramilitary less in Revachol. You can almost see him squeeze a tear out of his eye. His fists begin to tremble in anger. Lieutenant raises his right arm to hush you. Hush. He does not need to be pushed anymore. The ball is rolling. Well, the lieutenant listens, holding his breath. Hold your breath. I had them in my sights, both of them, him and the whore. I was breathing with them, in phase. I pulled the trigger and flew on the air until I landed in his mouth. He begins to smile. I didn't think I had a shot like that in me anymore. I did. I saw him kneel there, with his mouth full of death, and that stupid look on his face. The smile quivers. And his dick's still in here. God damn, this guy is gross. Then what? Nothing. I went to sleep. The next morning, there were Maybells everywhere. The world was white, or what's left of it anyway. My last spring here. I knew the fascists would come to avenge their own. And so they did. The lieutenant just looks at him for 1, maybe 2 seconds, then breaks the silence. Mr. Dross, are you aware you're confessing to murder? Yes. A single word is all he gives. The lieutenant takes out his notebook slowly, very slowly. And you were looking at them, the victim and the young woman having sex, through the scope in your rifle that night before you shot him. The old man nods. Why? Because that's what they were doing. He shrugs, then smacks his lips. The motive. This is where the motive is going to come from. I don't understand. He turns to you. Do you, detective? I don't understand this part. Why were you looking at them that night? I'm always looking. He cocks his head to the side, then turns his eyes to the city. Another tremor passes his left side, lower in intensity. Are you always looking through the scope of a rifle? He explains. I'm just trying to understand. A rifle scope has the best magnification. And if you don't like it, you pull the trigger. Yes, he looks at you in the eye. Think of it as a form of critique. He will not stop now. These dialectical materialist types never do. Exploit it. What specific... Okay, you got him going. Connect every little piece now. Wrap this up like a gift. What specifically did you not like about what you saw the night of the murder? Them effin'. He looks at the charred wood. I didn't like that. So you're jealous? Jealousy is a reactionary concept. I didn't like the Reaver enjoying himself, drugged out, soothed in the arms of a young woman. I wanted him to die so he couldn't enjoy life anymore. For him to stop reacting to stimuli, to be broken off from the world, cordoned into darkness. And I wanted her to see his head explode. He nods. That too. She should know better than to hold a child murderer between her thighs. I knew he'd be there for one more second, writhing. And that's all it takes for the bullet to reach his head. He squints. Now that I think of it, I wasn't aiming for his mouth. I wanted his brains to spill out on her. But, he shrugs, you can't have everything. How long had you been watching her? Since she came to Martinez. I saw her sneaking in the reeds early in the morning, behind the Feld building. It was dark, still winter. She didn't have her skimpy outfit on then, just a spot in the night, moving. Past the Feld building on the coast. What was she doing there? Hiding something in the water. She had a cigarette after she'd done it. I was up in the ruins there. She couldn't see me, but I could see her smoking. She was nervous, but not scared. What do you think she hid there? Her passport and tickets to Villiers. He coughs. And from there to Casher Broom. In the free state of Seminine, hidden away at the edge of the earth, near the Pale. This is the hidden buoy she told us about. You looked into it. He nods. After she was gone. Did you keep what was in it? When we found the submersible, it was empty. No, why would I do that? I don't need tickets to Villiers. I put them back. If I wanted to extort someone, I'd do better. He implies he's thought about extorting her. Are you sure? We checked the submersible. There's nothing there. He looks at the reeds, confused. Why would I need that trash? I'm not going to Villiers. A strange confusion comes over him from time to time. Some kind of aberration of the nervous system. Moving on, did you continue watching her after this? I did. He almost smiles. She had a face like an archipelago, with those birthmarks, and a body hard and lean and bruised all over, black and yellow. I could see she's taken a beating. I could see who she was, too. He nods. A spook on the run. Revishal's the cloaca of capital now. All the bagmen and arms dealers end up here, to do drugs and have sex like animals. You could tell she was a spook from the documents. She had different colored hair on the photo, and glasses. Forged. Some sordid bourgeois affair. I've heard about this kind of thing on the radio. He's setting it up for you. The bruises. You can't make that on the scope. And you can see your bruises through the scope of a rifle? You can see bruises. You can't see bruises through a scope. It's just a blur. He shakes his silver gray head. How does he know the minute details about a body? It quickly comes to you. Bruises on her body. Any chance you saw them through a hole in the wall? Oh yes, he smacks his lips, cutting those drugs of hers into little lines with a knife, masturbating. Did you take that hole? Make that hole. With a clip point knife. Good for listening in too, for hearing the moaning and the snorts. Ever see her through a window on a roof? Like that too, yes. He nods, bending like a bow against the glass. You've been through the secret route behind the whirling in rags. Those were your footprints there. You just changed your shoes. I've been through all of Martinez, every nook and cranny. And that too. Yes, that too. He shakes his head, almost in awe. The things they did in that little room. What she'd do to feel good. He explains, funny, the way light works. You turn it on inside and it gets so dark you can't see a man looking in. I learned that in the 20s when they were still hunting me. I've seen people do some shit, but... He keeps shaking his head. Those two took the cake. You hear a familiar scribble of the lieutenant's pen, a quick glance at you. One more loose end down. We're doing this, detective. And then at the man. How'd you get in there at the hidden pinball workshop? I can just walk in there now after a good wash. I told you they think I'm an antisocial. Closing hour is a good time. The kitchen's empty. You had to open the steel door in the kitchen. How? I got that open a long time ago. Some bourgeois game merchant lived there. I don't know, 15 years ago. He left spare keys all over, and I took one. Then I saw her turn the light on one night in my scope. He points towards the whirling in rags, and he found a use for it. Spare key like the one hanging behind the union box window. How long... let's see. How long had you been... Okay. Did you have feelings for the woman? He sighs. There's nothing to hold on to. Only this. It's not enough. The coals of his eyes glisten suddenly, like stones dripping with water. Is he crying? Man needs to feel something else. In this fight, helps if you have your eyes on something there. Looks to the city. It's weakness, I know. There have been others? Yes, over the years. It's unproletarian to feel something. It's not unproletarian to feel something. One more thing about this woman. Woman, he smiles suddenly. And inexplicably, it doesn't go with his pained voice. So in conclusion, it wasn't about him, it was about her. Her, he repeats, staring at the ashes, then the reeds. There's a twitch in the corner of his eye. Lieutenant nods at you in acknowledgement. That's it. Motive, we have it. The old man looks at you, suddenly remembering something. Where is she? I haven't seen her for days. I'm not at liberty to say. I know she's gone. He looks at the city, locked up or on the run. She kept staring into the scope, you know, in the end, this last week at the fort, like she knew. Like, she knew I was here. Yeah, it's to no one in particular. It doesn't matter. Midtown, across the Bay of Revachol, cold rain falls on 40-story towers. Above them, Lausanne Central Aerodrome, a cocoon suspended in the gray sky by a web of suspension wiring, encircled by a hybrid aircraft. Look north. On the platform, a young woman is withdrawing from amphetamines, barbiturates, and alcohol. Yet she still smiles among the crowd, among the great ghosts of the city she's leaving, for another, far south. Smaller, distant, hidden. It's not like the great chandelier she sees sparkle in the spring air below her. Streets and towers, tenements and water. and across it, a dark strip of runes barely visible if she didn't squint her eyes. There, on the dilapidated jetty in a nameless village, 2 police officers and 1 special consultant look across a narrow strip of sea. The ruins of a sea fort stick out of the water, built by Felipe II, reappointed by the Commune, then lost in the landing. He's there doing what exactly, I don't know. Satellite Officer Vicmar points to the ruins. Behind that anti-aircraft something. That's why we can't see him. Special Consultant Heidelstam is optimistic. We'll see that boat when he comes. Let's go get a coffee until then. I know this is in this interesting little place where his voice trails off as the 3 walk down the jetty. As the men go, Patrol Officer Minot looks over his shoulder at the crumbling fortification in the rain, like a rotten tooth rising from the water. We could get more, the lieutenant uses the opportunity to tell you, in a lowered voice. We got him talking. Who knows what he's seen and done over the years? Enough, take him in, bend his arms behind his back and end this. Been looking at anything else you haven't liked? A tragic comedy he shakes to life. Druggies, prostitutes, rentiers. A strange little engine seems to fire up in him again. It straightens his back. The familiar put-put-put of hatred. More specifically? Specifically, the whole city is a charnel house, stripped clean and draped in neon. But Martinez? He shakes his head in grave disgust. Martinez is the worst. How come? Because of the racists. Everyone's a racist in Martinez. It's their favorite thing to do in the whole world, listening to race-themed radio shows. And the ruins in their lorries. He points inland. I'm full of steroids and Radio Revachol 92. Race this, race that. It's all sanctioned by that Social Democratic Union in the face of and the farce of a social democrat who runs it. Mr. Clare? Yeah, the fly larva in his container. He let some nihilistic advertising yuppies erect a statue of Felipe III, a syphilitic murderer, on the town square to spit on the working class. Anything more? But since the source of the ancient Percanassians has history produced a more inert social class than the Martinez proletariat, the rest of Revachol at least pretends to rebuild. These people live in ruins. Intense, like animals. He points to the church, like those boom morons on the ice. A pity they didn't drown in that tent of theirs. He keeps shaking his head with the sorrow for the sight he missed. That all? The worst of them is the blood-drenched sour creant on her yacht, licking her lips. The old whore's gone now. Her gun-toting porcelain men are dead. So actually, no. The worst is that old cock parading around in his uniform, throwing balls all day. It's not enough that the racists and liberals are dancing on our graves. The old loyalist ghouls still parade the ruins too. Every morning he's there, while the parasites he's fought to protect are off in Ozone, or Croyant Moraine, or some other island they've built their palaces on, feeding on drugs and having sex with their own children. Ugh. Say nothing. That's all the rich really want. Sex with their own children. Throughout history, even the royal bloodline of the suzerain, all just an excuse for them to have sordid sex. Oh, that old Count Fricelle is now dead. At least that old Count Fricelle is now dead. Okay. Just nod. We did good when we pushed him under that horse car. If only, in the 30s, those disco whores. What follows is ominous mumbling. You cannot make out a single word. The disco whores are too much. Hatred shuts down his brain's language center, leaving only a nonsensical sputter. There's something about a statue and nihilistic advertising agency people. Might be worth investigating. Oh, there was something about the statue on the roundabout. And syphilis? Syphilis is a disease Felipe II contracted in a whorehouse. He fires quickly. The statue is an abomination. Abomination? Bacteria entered his brain and made him squander trillions on sparkling wine, cocainium, and monuments of himself. His son Felipe II, or the Third, the insane, contracted syphilis in the womb. He breathes in with a wheeze of hatred. That's not technically possible, though Philip III was not actually syphilitic. He was just mad. And he still went on to govern Revachol for 25 years. We lost 2 million lives toppling that mode of government. And then those grotesque statues too, hundreds of them. But it's still there. What a key remark, he sputters. Yes, it is, isn't it? It's still there. Do you know why? Because cynical advertising yuppies erected a deconstructed version of it. That's right, some advertising cockroaches erected a cynical deconstruction of it. We tore it down with honest working-class plastic explosives, and there it is again. He shakes his head in disgust. Art is a bourgeois establishment. It's an affront to humanity. Every gallery should be bulldozed, and the artist should be given 30 years in hard labor in Yakokata. Wait, it suddenly strikes you. Perhaps it was not as it seemed. Actually, it was not deconstructed so much as captured in the moment of the explosion. What are you talking about? Ancient Communard cocks his head. It's not a monument to Felipe III any more than it's a monument to... Oh, anymore. It's a monument to the moment... Wait, a monument to the monument of Felipe III exploding. What is this madness? A dim light comes into his eyes. The Lieutenant 2 has cocked his head and is looking at you with a strange expression. It's not madness, it's a monument to what you did. To your program of destatuing Revachol. You're saying it's a communist monument now? Not only. Yeah, and furthermore, the design bureau people are probably left-wing too. They often are. We did always have the prettiest posters. Maybe you're right, his eyes fill with understanding. That is how dialectics work. But understand this, art is still a bourgeois institution. That's stupid. He coughs and then adds in a gravelly voice. And they should still all be sent to Yakokata. Typical far-left treachery, repressing your own people. It is commonplace to relocate the workforce according to the needs of the land. All nations do it. It's called settlement. Shakes his head and mumbles, browbeating from the bourgeois art fascist. That's it for the statue then. Tell me, Mr. Droz. Fat union man, let them put it there. Corrupt as he is, well, we got a fat check for it too. Shared it with the law. Accusations of corruption. Push them aside with a sharp change of topic, officer. Put the heat on him. He keeps having opinions about the union's leadership. You mentioned the union's is social democratic, and Mr. Clare is a farce of a social democrat? Another hideous disappointment, he pokes at the ash. Unions are the real enemy. The real, true enemy of the proletariat, placating the masses. Disappointment, so personal. He displays a familiarity with the union's top brass. It was a disappointment, Everett Clare. That deformed toad? I would expect him to wipe his own ass. I mean the brains of the operation, the smart one. Edgar? You mean Edgar, Everett's brother? The old man chortles with a nod. He talks a big game about uprising, the social base. They must have sent the smart one to some university in Les Jardins, where it's alienation and this and hegemony that. You've talked to Edgar? First against the wall with him. He stopped poking at the ash now, just shakes his head. The Clares wouldn't miss a man hidden in their own backyard. Not all this time. Nothing happens in Martinez without them knowing. Of course, maybe the Clares asked them to. Have you approached them? I haven't approached anyone. I've hid. It was Edgar who came to me. How did he know you were here? He didn't just stumble in like an oaf. He nods to you. He figured it out. Some kids told him about a monster on the island. I told you, he has brains. Points to the path leading to the tower. Step right off the boat, walk down where you came. I even kept the door open for him. Thought he was a man on the left. He wouldn't rat me out. I was right about one of those things. When was this? 20 years ago. Neither of them could walk now, could they? They were less fat then. Around the time the Clares came into power. What did you talk about? Edgar did the talking, paid his respects like it was a fossil in a uniform. Offered platitudes about the struggle, flaunted his pink degree, even quoted Mazov. Never trust a social democrat who quotes Mazov, he suddenly remembers. Oh, and charity too. They love their charity. Offered me blankets and social housing. Still have the gas cooker he brought. And he let you be here. Let me be here. He looks around. The SAR is an unlawful successor of the Commune of Revachol. We took this fortification from the Loyalists. Even the Clares understood this. They let him be here. Understanding was a courtesy. But why such a courtesy? Mr. Droz, did you kill the Cornell mercenary for the Clares to incite a riot? You know why I killed that effort, Driot. Shakes his head. As to Edgar, I'm not doing anything for that swine again. Again? What have you done for Edgar before? Tried teaching him some Mazovian socioeconomics. It didn't stick. We parted ways, he coughs. Okay. He didn't do the hanged man for them, but he's insinuating something. Logic legendary. The connection comes to you like a splash of cold water. 20 years ago, when you met Edgar, the Clares didn't run the Union yet, did they? Heh, sputter from the old man. He acknowledges it. Here we go. A twist behind the dark bend. Who did? That bourgeoisie cow. Tryphane Holly was her name. He narrows his eyes. Licked the rich man's hand every time he came to town. Never seen a labor leader so hot on mutual cooperation. And money, she liked that too. That Holly was a real bridge builder and deal maker. His eyes glistened suddenly with hatred. She was also a woman, wasn't she? Like that Clausia. She was. And she was real soft on those money men. Had a Barbara Muskova bag over her shoulder that she liked to bring to work. And then she just disappeared. Called in, they say, on the eve of the battle. Ran away. Vanished like a piss stain. He squints and smiles at the black logs. No, that's not quite it, is it? Did she? The lieutenant's voice is calm. They say her daughter called in. Not her personally. But that wasn't really her daughter, was it? No, I guess it wasn't. You could swear you could see the embers glow again under his eyes in the dust. Edgar had someone make the call. Why is that, Mr. Dross? She couldn't make the call herself. Here it is, bend in the river. Why? Because she was dead. Just say nothing. Cow caught a bullet in her right lung, fell into the canal, grasping her tit and drowned. Or bled. Hard to say. It was a sloppy job, and a moving target. She was going home, waddling, dressed in yellow, drunk, like she often was. The ruins were black around her, and she had a yellow leather bag under her arm. She tried to cross the canal. Heading home to Grand Couronne or Betancourt. Someplace like that, where they build those new battlements for the people who flourish in the hell around her, and the ruins. So you shot her. Someone shot her, he shrugs. His eyes grow cold suddenly. Or maybe the cow just fell. My memory's full of holes. All I know is, nothing changed. Not in the material base, not in the hegemony. There was no uprising, just words. The Union fizzled, sogged. Nothing came of it. Nothing. Edgar didn't keep his part of the deal. Sputter again. Nothing more. If you were to testify to this, give the RCM something on Edgar. You could walk, the lieutenant says in a voice even calmer, as if it were nothing at all. We could strike everything you've done and process you as a prisoner of war. You were in a war. You were on assignment. We could even extradite you to the Samaran People's Republic. A degenerate worker state? Coat shit. No thank you. I'm Revacholian. He spits. My days are short. I will rot away here in a moral intern cell. I will not testify to anything. He coughs. But you did do it. I saw it happen. I liked it. That's all I have to say. I didn't live and fought for 40 years to end up as a collaborationist. I've heard it on Channel 8, 40 a.m. Radio Revachol, late night. Secret task complete. What happened to the previous forewoman? Everyone's a blobber in this world. Everyone betrays everyone. They're all already locked up for betrayal. Best ones, the ones with heart, were slaughtered, trampled. Looks to the city. There's plenty here to work with once he's in custody. And the lieutenant knows it. He gives you a little nod to proceed. Disco horrors. Horrors is all he says. Even the word has to be pushed through his teeth with great force. The rage seethes too hard. By the cock parading in his colorful uniform, you mean Renee. Every effing morning for 34 years, he grinds his teeth in rage. Own that ball, one ball against the other. Always loathed that game. That is not a working class game. I don't care what they say on Radio June. Royalist ghouls play it like it was life itself. Clack, clack. Makes the sound of balls connecting across the water each day. And that uniform like a parrot's plumage. I won't even mention that he's a traitor to his race. A petanque maniac, race traitor. Just nod. I remember him. He points to his black eye. I remember him from La Noche. Not him personally. His make and model. There were tens and thousands of them. I thought we took them all out before the liberals came to their rescue. We missed one. With a shaky finger, he points to the city, towards the crater near the plaza where a lonely pine tree stands. That one. There doesn't seem to be a single person under the pine today. Not even Gaston, alone. There's no one there. Fat and plump like a pheasant. He doesn't hear you, just begging to be popped off. A grin stretches across his face. And he says very softly, "Please, Mr. Dross, shoot me. You'd like to kill him?" Smile lingers. "Not yet. I like to look at him strut around, place the crosshair on his metal, right on his face, and just fiddle the trigger. Think about it. Let the bonbon melt in my mouth. Save the treat for later, the lieutenant asks cheerfully. He is a juicy bonbon, that one. Real treat for the black day. The blackest. When I put that gun in my own mouth, I think, no, don't waste it. Put this lead in that cock Rene. For the boys he killed. And then I look at him throw those balls and I suddenly feel, lets out a wistful sigh. Better. I even hid one bullet so I'd always have one. For him. The lines on his face straighten as he looks inland. Haven't seen him around lately. Strutting around. Must be down with arthritis. Hope it hurts like hell. Hope he sweats with blood. Rene is dead. He died of old age. A couple of days ago. No. Yep. The old communist looks at you. His blackberry eyes shaking in disbelief. I waited too long. And now he's dead. I'm sorry, Mr. Drost, the lieutenant says softly. I understand you knew him for a long time. They're all dead now. He just shakes his head. F it. If he really wanted to kill him so bad, he would have done so. There must have been 1,000 black days on these islands, his health failing. You cared about him. A little flash of anger. All human beings care about each other. I cared for seeing his head explode. And now, goddamn this world. We had 1,000 chances to kill him. And I blew them all. What does it matter now? He's gone? Ancient dust. Sorry. F you, the old communard says, staring at the ground, seemingly to the island you're on. You okay, Mr. Drost, to go on? You think I haven't seen people die. It's all I've seen them do. F and die. The other plans we had. To love, to colonize the Pale. It's all F's. He's not okay. It's just another black day, in a row of black days. Something strange is keeping him together, making him endure. An idea, told to him by grown-ups, from radio towers and leaflets. In beautiful print, when he was still a teenager, everything is possible, if we fight. And then he lost, so did they all. Composure legendary. Assesses body language. Where's composure? Okay, that's about maxed up. Okay, that's it for now, old man. Stay put. I ain't going anywhere. Okay. Oh, it was saving. Well, I don't need all this armor anymore, so what do we have for composure? Not that it matters. But still. The problem is I've actually maxed out my composure stat about as high as I could get it. Because we needed it a lot. It's interesting how many different stats almost kind of went unused. I think part of it is because we barely did any physical stuff, period, and had no points in this, almost none of these options were even available. Which is interesting. I appreciate the variety there. And I really did end up kind of staying true to my build. I think I ended up... Well, no, I definitely needed all the... Well, no, I definitely didn't need all those points in conceptualization, but whatever. I thought I'd need more in Encyclopedia. Maybe if I'd put more points in, I would have learned more facts. Holy crap, I have a lot of skill points. Interesting. I guess we're right at the end, so kind of shouldn't surprise me at all.